The council gave the order too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach. Part 1. Helen Carter stood in the center of the grand chamber and felt the weight of 800 alien species staring down at her. The chamber was enormous, built from crystalline materials that caught and bent light in ways that hurt human eyes. She had been standing there for 3 hours while the council members took turns accusing humanity of crimes against galactic law. The chamber orbited a neutron star called Kepler 442, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Through the transparent walls, Helen could see the star pulsing with regular beats of radiation. Each pulse reminded her that she was very far from Earth, very far from home, and very much alone in this place. Prelate Vexthor floated above the assembly floor in his prismatic shell. He was a being of pure energy, contained within a structure that looked like a massive diamond. His voice boomed through the chamber without need for speakers or translation devices. Every species heard him in their own way, their own language, their own understanding. "Ambassador Carter," Vexthor said, and his voice carried disappointment like a parent scolding a child. "Your species has violated the sacred accords. You have built wormhole technology without authorization. You have created synthetic consciousness without oversight. You have expanded beyond your designated space at a rate that threatens the stability of this council." Helen kept her face neutral. She was 63 years old and had spent 40 of those years in military service before becoming Earth's ambassador. She knew how to stand still under pressure. She knew how to hide what she was thinking. These were useful skills in this moment. "The technological advancement protocols exist for a reason," another council member added. This one was a creature of liquid metal that flowed and reformed constantly. Every species must advance at a measured pace. This prevents chaos. This prevents war. This prevents extinction. Helen finally spoke. Her voice was calm and measured. "The protocols were explained to us when we joined the council 50 years ago. We understood the rules. We have tried to follow them." "Tried." Vexthor repeated the word with emphasis. "But you have failed. We have evidence of 18 unauthorized research facilities. We have detected quantum signatures consistent with wormhole manipulation. We have intercepted communications between synthetic intelligences that should not exist." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing images and data that the council had collected. Helen watched the display and showed no emotion. She had known they were watching. Everyone knew the council watched everything. That was part of their power, part of how they maintained control over 800 species spread across the galaxy. "What does the council want?" Helen asked. Vexthor's prismatic shell pulsed with light. "We want compliance, immediate and total. You will cease all deep space projects. You will surrender your wormhole technology to council oversight. You will dismantle your synthetic intelligence networks. You have 72 hours to confirm that Earth will obey these requirements." "And if we refuse?" Helen asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then humanity will be isolated from galactic civilization. No trade, no communication, no travel beyond your own solar system. If you resist this isolation, we will use military force to contain you." The threat hung in the air like smoke. 800 species, thousands of worlds, millions of ships. The council had resources that made Earth's entire military look like children playing with toys. Everyone in the chamber knew this. Everyone understood the imbalance of power. Helen bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect that was understood across many cultures. "I will deliver your message to Earth's government. They will need time to consider the implications." 72 hours, Vexthor repeated. "Not a moment more." Helen turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the vast chamber, a small human sound in an alien space. As she reached the doorway, she allowed herself the smallest smile. It was so brief that no one watching would have noticed. She activated the neural communicator implanted behind her ear and sent a single encrypted message to Captain Derek Walsh, who was waiting with Earth's defense fleet just outside Council territory. The message was simple. They took the bait. Proceed with Phase 2. Derek Walsh received the message while standing on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Horizon. He was 38 years old, young for a captain of his rank, but he had earned his position through skill and dedication. The bridge crew looked at him as the message appeared on his personal display. "Sir?" his first officer asked. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Moore had served with Derek for 5 years and knew him well enough to read his expressions. "Send the signal," Derek said quietly. "All ships. Execute Phase 2. Patricia's fingers moved across her control panel, sending coded transmissions to every Earth ship in the fleet. They had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it, drilling for it for months. Now it was finally happening. What happens now? A young ensign asked from the navigation station. Derek looked at the star charts displayed on the main screen. Now we find out if humanity is as clever as we think we are. Back in her quarters on the council station, Helen sat down and poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were steady. She had done her part. The council believed they had cornered humanity, forced them into submission. They believed their threats would work because threats had always worked before. 800 species had bent to council authority over millions of years. But the council had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humanity would react like other species. They had assumed humans would choose safety over freedom, would choose survival over pride. They had not understood that humans were different in one crucial way. Humans did not accept cages well. Helen opened her personal computer and accessed files that were hidden behind 7 layers of encryption. The files showed the truth of what humanity had been doing while the council watched and worried. Yes, there were research facilities. Yes, there was wormhole technology. Yes, there were synthetic intelligences. But these were not the real secret. The real secret was simpler and more profound. While the council debated what to do about humanity's rapid advancement, while they gathered evidence and prepared their ultimatum, humanity had been preparing for this exact moment. They had been building ships, enormous ships, generation ships designed to carry millions of people across impossible distances. The council's jurisdiction extended to the edge of explored space, to a boundary they called the terminus line. Beyond that line lay the void beyond, a region of space that even the ancient council feared to enter. No one knew what was out there. No one had ever gone far enough to find out and return to tell about it. But 6 months ago, human colony ships had crossed the terminus line. They had gone into the void beyond and kept going, pushing deeper into unexplored space with each passing day. The council did not know about this. Their sensors could not reach that far. Their ships did not patrol that deep. Helen looked at the latest reports from those colony ships. They were thriving. They had found resources. They had found worlds suitable for settlement. Most importantly, they had found something else, something the council had never mentioned in all their warnings about the void beyond. They had found evidence of ancient civilizations, structures so massive and advanced that human science could barely comprehend them, and these civilizations had not been destroyed by whatever the council feared. They had simply left, moved on to something greater, something beyond the understanding of species like humanity or the council. Helen closed the files and smiled to herself. In 72 hours, she would return to the council chamber. She would bow respectfully and inform them that Earth would comply with all their demands. Earth would stop its unauthorized research. Earth would surrender its technology. Earth would accept council authority. But the rest of humanity, the millions already beyond the terminus line and the millions more about to join them, would be free. They would be beyond council reach, beyond council law, beyond council power. The council had given their order, but they had given it too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach. The council gave the order too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach part. 6 months earlier, the hidden shipyards of Titan were working at full capacity. Saturn's largest moon had become humanity's greatest secret, a construction facility so vast that it could be seen from space if anyone knew where to look, but no one was looking. The council's attention was focused on Earth, on Mars, on the obvious places where humans lived and worked. Dr. Lisa Morgan walked through the observation deck and looked out at the ship taking shape in the construction bay. The Endeavour stretched 50 kilometers from bow to stern, a generation ship designed to carry 1 million people across distances that would take normal ships thousands of years to travel. But the Endeavour was not a normal ship. Lisa was 57 years old and had dedicated her entire career to astrophysics. She had made the discovery that changed everything 15 years ago. She had found a way to fold space using controlled singularities and quantum entanglement. The council had immediately classified her research as unauthorized and demanded she stop. That was when Lisa realized the truth about the council. They did not want species to advance. They wanted to keep everyone at the same level, controlled and manageable. "Dr. Morgan," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Peter Grant approaching. Peter was 32 years old and worked as a systems engineer on the Endeavour project. He carried a datapad and wore the expression of someone who had been working for 20 hours straight. "What is it, Peter?" Lisa asked. "The passenger manifest is complete," Peter said, handing her the datapad. 1 million souls from every continent on Earth. Scientists, artists, farmers, engineers, teachers, doctors. We even have 300 children under the age of 5. Lisa scrolled through the names, seeing the diversity of humanity represented in those lists. People from every culture, every background, every walk of life. They had all volunteered, knowing they would never see Earth again, knowing they were embarking on a journey that might take generations to complete. "Your family?" Lisa asked, looking up at Peter. "All of us," Peter confirmed. "My wife, my parents, my sister, and her kids. We talked about it for months. In the end, it was not even a difficult choice. Stay here under council restrictions or go out there and see what humanity can really become." A door opened, and Commander Jacob Lee entered the observation deck. Jacob was responsible for military security on the Exodus project. He was 45 years old and had served in Earth's defense forces for his entire adult life. He looked worried, which was unusual for him. "We have a problem," Jacob said without preamble. "Council sensors detected unusual energy readings near Titan 2 hours ago. They sent a probe to investigate." Lisa felt her stomach tighten. "How long until the probe arrives?" 18 hours. We have been monitoring its approach. If we launch now, we can be beyond their sensor range before they get clear images of what we have been building here." "The other ships?" Lisa asked. The Endeavour was the flagship, but there were 14 other generation ships under construction across the solar system. "All ready," Jacob confirmed. "Or ready enough. We always knew we might have to launch ahead of schedule. The crews are prepared. The passengers are prepared. We can go now if we have to." Lisa looked back at the Endeavour. The ship was not completely finished. There were systems that still needed testing, sections that needed final assembly. But Jacob was right. They had prepared for this possibility. They had known the council would eventually notice something was wrong. "Send the signal," Lisa said. "All ships launch in 12 hours. That gives us time to get everyone aboard and run basic system checks. We will finish the rest during the journey." Jacob nodded and began issuing orders through his communicator. Peter stood beside Lisa, watching the Endeavour through the observation window. "This is really happening," he said quietly. "We are really leaving." "We are really leaving," Lisa agreed. 12 hours later, the Endeavour's engines powered up for the first time. The ship trembled as massive amounts of energy flowed through systems that had only been tested in simulations. 1 million people were strapped into acceleration couches, spread throughout the ship's residential sections. They had said goodbye to Earth, to the sun, to everything they had ever known. Lisa sat in the command center with Peter and Jacob beside her. Around them, dozens of crew members monitored displays and readouts. The countdown reached 0. The Endeavour moved. Not with chemical rockets or ion drives, but with something entirely new. Space itself bent around the ship, folding in ways that physics textbooks said was impossible. The ship did not accelerate in the traditional sense. It simply moved from one point in space to another, skipping across the distance like a stone across water. Across the solar system, 14 other generation ships activated their drive simultaneously. The energy signature was enormous, impossible to hide. Every sensor the Council had pointed at human space would detect it. There would be no hiding what was happening now. On the Council station orbiting Kepler 442, alarms began sounding. Prelate Vexthor appeared before Ambassador Helen Carter in her quarters without warning, his prismatic shell pulsing with angry red light. "What have you done?" Vexthor demanded. Helen stood calmly, showing no fear. "We have complied with Council law. All ships launching from Earth space have proper documentation and authorization. They are civilian vessels on civilian missions. Do not play games with me, Ambassador. We detected 15 massive energy signatures. Ships using technology that violates the technological advancement protocols. Where are they going?" Helen walked to her window and looked out at the neutron star. "Beyond your jurisdiction, Prelate. Beyond the terminus line. Into the void beyond." Vexthor's shell turned from red to a deep purple, a color Helen had never seen before. "The void beyond is forbidden. Nothing that enters that region survives." "Then you have nothing to worry about," Helen said simply. "If we do not survive, we will not be your problem anymore. And if we do survive, we will be beyond your reach. Either way, You get what you wanted. Humanity will no longer be advancing within Council space. Vexthor was silent for a long moment. You do not understand what you have done. The terminus line exists for a reason. There are things in the void beyond that even the Council fears. Then perhaps we will find out what those things are, Helen said. Humans have always been curious. It is one of our defining traits. Vexthor vanished without another word. Helen allowed herself to smile. She had bought humanity exactly what they needed: time and distance. The Council could send ships after the Exodus fleet. But by the time those ships arrived, the fleet would be long gone, traveling through folded space at speeds the Council could not match. On the Endeavor, Lisa watched the sensor displays as the ship crossed the terminus line. It was not a physical boundary, just a line on maps that marked the edge of Council-explored space. Beyond it lay darkness and mystery. Beyond it lay freedom. Sensors detecting something, one of the crew members called out. Multiple structures ahead. Very large, very old. Lisa leaned forward, staring at the display. The structures appeared as massive shapes against the background of stars. They were artificial, clearly made by intelligent beings, but the scale was beyond anything humanity had built. Each structure was larger than Earth's moon. What are they? Peter asked, his voice filled with awe. I do not know, Lisa admitted. But they are not Council technology. These are older, much older. Jacob studied the tactical display. No active power signatures. No weapon systems targeting us. Whatever built these things, they are not here anymore. Or they do not care about us, Lisa said. We are like ants walking past a skyscraper. Too small to notice, too insignificant to matter. The Endeavor passed by the first structure, its sensors gathering data. The structure was a sphere, perfect and smooth with a diameter of 30,000 kilometers. Its surface was covered in patterns that might have been writing or might have been decorations. There was no way to tell. There are more ahead, the sensor operator reported. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They form a path through space like markers or guideposts. Lisa made a decision. Follow the path. Whatever species built these structures, they were more advanced than the Council. If they left a path, there must be a reason. The 15 ships of the Exodus fleet moved deeper into the void beyond, following the trail of ancient structures. Behind them, the Council's territory grew smaller and more distant. Ahead of them lay the unknown. Peter looked at Lisa and smiled. We did it. We actually escaped. Lisa nodded but kept her eyes on the sensor displays. We escaped the Council. But now we need to survive out here. And we need to find out what happened to the species that built these structures. Because if something could make them disappear, we need to know what it was. The Endeavor continued into the darkness, carrying 1 million human souls toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the Council gave orders and made threats. But those orders and threats could not reach across the distance anymore. Humanity had moved beyond their reach. The only question now was whether they could survive what lay ahead. The Council gave the order too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach part. 320 years passed in the darkness between stars. The Exodus fleet had become a civilization unto itself. Children who had been born during the journey now had children of their own. The original passengers, those who remembered Earth, were becoming grandparents. Life continued inside the massive ships, adapting to circumstances that no human had faced before. Dr. Lisa Morgan was now 77 years old. Her hair had turned white and her movements were slower, but her mind remained sharp. She stood in the command center of the Endeavor, watching sensor displays that showed something impossible. Distance to the structure? Lisa asked. 14 million kilometers and closing, replied Nathan Cross, the young officer manning the sensor station. Nathan was 23 years old and had been born on the Endeavor 3 years after launch. He had never seen Earth, had never walked on a planet, had never breathed air that was not recycled through ship systems. But he did not feel like he had missed anything. The ship was his home. Space was his birthright. The structure they were approaching was a ring world, a band of solid matter orbiting a binary star system. The ring was 3 million kilometers in diameter and thousands of kilometers wide. Its inner surface could hold the living space of millions of planets. It was a feat of engineering that made human accomplishments look like children's toys. Scan complete, Nathan reported. The structure is stable. Gravity generation is active along the inner surface. Atmosphere is breathable. Temperature is within human comfort range. There are structures on the surface, buildings or cities, but there are no life signs. Nothing moving. Nothing active. Peter Grant, now 52 years old and serving as the Endeavor's chief engineer, studied the data with concern. This does not make sense. The structure is maintaining itself. Gravity systems are running. Atmospheric processors are working. But there is nobody here. Where did they go? Admiral Karen Price stood beside Lisa. Karen had been Derek Walsh's second-in-command before he retired 10 years ago. She had taken over leadership of the fleet's military forces and had proven to be an excellent tactician. She was 55 years old, careful and methodical in her thinking. "We should send a survey team," Karen said, "but we go in cautious. Full protective gear. Armed escorts. Limited exposure until we know what we are dealing with." Lisa nodded. "I agree. Nathan, you will lead the scientific team. Karen, assign your best people for security. I want to know what this place is and what happened to whoever built it." 6 hours later, Nathan stood on the surface of the ring world. The sky above him was strange, showing the curvature of the ring stretching away in both directions until it disappeared into the haze of distance. The binary stars hung in the sky like two burning eyes, providing light and warmth. The structures around them were massive, buildings that rose kilometers into the sky. But they were not buildings in the traditional sense. They seemed to have grown rather than been built, like crystallized space-time taking solid form. Energy flowed through them in visible patterns, following pathways that Nathan's instruments could not fully explain. "This technology is beyond anything in Council space," Nathan said into his communicator. "The Council has been civilized for millions of years, but this makes their best work look primitive." The survey team moved through the structures, finding more questions than answers. There were spaces that might have been living quarters. There were areas that might have been factories or laboratories, but everything was scaled for beings much larger than humans and everything was empty. Then they found the center. At the exact middle of the ring world, where the gravity was lightest, stood a single spire. It rose 100 kilometers into the sky, made of material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. At its base was a platform covered in symbols. "These are mathematical expressions," Nathan said, kneeling to examine the symbols more closely. "Universal constants, the speed of light, Planck's constant, the fine structure constant. This is a language based on physics, a language that any advanced species would understand." He activated his computer and began translating the symbols. It took 3 hours of work, but slowly a message emerged. Nathan's hands began to shake as he read what the symbols said. "What does it say?" one of the security officers asked. Nathan looked up, his face pale. "We need to get this back to Dr. Morgan immediately." Back on the Endeavor, Lisa read Nathan's translation with growing horror. The other senior officers gathered around her, reading over her shoulder. The room was silent except for the soft hum of ship systems. "The Galactic Council is a lie," Peter said quietly, reading the words on the screen. "Everything they told us about protecting civilization, about guiding species, about maintaining peace, it was all a lie. The message from the ancients explained everything. The universe went through cycles, great periods of rise and fall. Every 100 million years something came. The ancients called them the harvesters. They were beings or forces from outside normal space-time, and they consumed advanced civilizations. Not destroyed them, but consumed them, taking their knowledge, their technology, their very essence. The Galactic Council had survived one of these harvests long ago. They had survived by hiding, by making themselves small and insignificant. And they had decided that this was the only way to survive. They enforced stagnation across the galaxy, keeping all species below a certain technological threshold. Any species that advanced too quickly was either suppressed or forced into the void beyond. "The terminus line," Karen said. "That is not protecting us from what is out here. That is protecting the Council from species that might attract the harvesters." "And the species out here in the void?" Nathan asked. "The ones who built these structures?" Lisa continued reading. "They chose to ascend. They found a way to leave physical form behind and exist as pure consciousness in a higher dimension. The harvesters cannot touch them there. That is why these structures are maintained but empty. These are monuments, memorials to civilizations that chose to transcend rather than hide." A soft chime sounded through the command center. Nathan looked at his console in surprise. Something is activating in the central spire. An artificial intelligence. It is trying to communicate with us. "Put it through," Lisa ordered. A voice filled the command center, speaking in perfect English. It had somehow learned their language from the survey team's communications. "Greetings, humans. I am the architect. I have waited here for 43 million years for someone to read the message and awaken me." "Why did you wait?" Lisa asked. "To give you a choice," the architect replied. "My creators left behind their knowledge. The process of ascension is recorded in my memory. You can follow them, leave physical form, and exist safely beyond the reach of the harvesters. Or you can continue as you are and face what comes." Nathan spoke up. "Why do we have to choose? Why cannot we take the knowledge and prepare to fight?" "Fight?" The architect sounded genuinely surprised. "No one fights the harvesters. They are beyond fighting. They exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They harvest civilizations the way you might harvest crops. It is not malicious. It is simply what they do." "Everything can be fought," Nathan insisted. "Everything can be overcome. That is what makes us human. We do not run and we do not hide." Lisa looked around at her crew, at the faces of people who had been born in space, who had never known the restrictions of the Council, who had grown up free. She saw determination in their eyes. She saw refusal to accept defeat. "We will not ascend," Lisa said firmly. "We will take your knowledge. We will learn from it. We will study it. And we will use it to prepare." The Council chose to survive by hiding. Your creators chose to survive by leaving. Humanity will choose to survive by fighting. The architect was silent for a moment. "This is an unusual response. No species has ever chosen this path before. The probability of success is extremely low." "Then we will do what humans do best," Peter said with a grim smile. "We will beat the odds." "Very well," the architect said. "I will transfer all knowledge to your systems. But I must warn you, the Galactic Council monitors this region. They will know you have found this place. They will know you have accessed forbidden knowledge. They will send their military forces to ensure you never share what you have learned." Karen smiled coldly. "Let them come. We will show them what humanity has become out here in the dark. We will show them what happens when you try to cage a species that was born to be free." The Exodus fleet remained at the Ring World for 3 months, downloading information from the architect and studying the ancient technology. When they finally departed, they were no longer just refugee ships fleeing Council authority. They were the vanguard of something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. They were humanity unbound, and they were heading toward their destiny among the stars. The Council gave the order too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach part. For the edge of the Andromeda galaxy gleamed with the light of 1 billion stars. 40 years had passed since the Exodus fleet left Earth. The original 15 ships had become a civilization of 17 star systems, each one transformed by human ingenuity and ancient knowledge into thriving worlds. The ships themselves had evolved, incorporating technology that blurred the line between machine and living organism. Admiral Karen Price stood on the bridge of the Endeavour and watched the sensor displays with calm determination. She was 75 years old now, her hair silver white, but her mind was as sharp as ever. The displays showed 12 Council Enforcer fleets approaching from the direction of the Milky Way. 12,000 ships bearing down on humanity's new home. "Time to intercept?" Karen asked. 72 hours at current speed," replied Commander Nathan Cross. Nathan was now 43 years old and commanded the Guardian Division, humanity's defensive forces. He stood at his station with the confidence of someone who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. "Prelate Vexthor is leading them personally," another officer reported. "His battle station is at the center of the formation. It is the size of Earth's moon and armed with weapons that can sterilize entire planets." Karen nodded slowly. "The Council is not coming to negotiate. They are coming to eliminate us. They see us as a threat to their entire way of life." Peter Grant, now 72 years old and still serving as chief engineer, entered the bridge. "All systems are ready. The quantum phase generators are at full power. The dimensional shields are calibrated. We are as ready as we will ever be." "How many ships can we field?" Karen asked. 15 primary vessels, Nathan reported, plus 300 Guardian ships, against 12,000. The numbers were not encouraging, but numbers were not everything. Humanity had spent 4 decades learning from the architect, understanding ancient technology that the Council had never known existed. They had not just copied it. They had improved it, combined it with human innovation, created something entirely new. "Open a channel to Vexthor," Karen ordered. The main screen shifted to show Prelate Vexthor floating in his prismatic shell. The colors swirling through the shell were dark and angry. "Admiral Price," Vexthor said, his voice carrying across the light years between them. "You have violated the most sacred laws of galactic civilization. You have accessed forbidden knowledge. You have built weapons beyond Council authority. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." "Forbidden knowledge," Karen repeated. "You mean the truth about the harvesters? The truth about why the Council really enforces stagnation? You have been lying to 800 species for millions of years." "We have been protecting them," Vexthor insisted. "The harvesters cannot be fought. They can only be avoided. By keeping civilizations below a certain threshold, we ensure their survival. You ensure their slavery," Nathan said, stepping forward to stand beside Karen. "You keep them weak and helpless. When the harvesters come, those civilizations will be defenseless. We are preparing to fight. We are preparing to win." "Impossible," Vexthor declared. "The harvesters exist across multiple dimensions. They harvest civilizations from outside normal spacetime. There is no defense against them." "Then we will find one," Karen said quietly. "But first we need to deal with you. Will you attack us for refusing to hide? You have left us no choice. If your knowledge spreads, if other species learn what you have learned, they will advance beyond our control. The galaxy will descend into chaos. The harvesters will come early. Billions will die, or billions will be free," Karen replied. "Free to advance. Free to prepare. Free to face their destiny instead of cowering from it." "Surrender or die," Vexthor said. "Those are your only options." "There is always another option," Karen said and closed the channel. 72 hours later, the Council fleets entered attack range. Vexthor's battle station positioned itself at the center of the formation, surrounded by layers of warships. Energy readings spiked as weapons charged. The Council was preparing to end this in one overwhelming strike. "All ships," Karen ordered, "activate phase generators." Across the human fleet, drives engaged that bent the rules of reality itself. The ships began to flicker, existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. They were there and not there, solid and incorporeal, present in normal space and shifted into adjacent dimensions. The Council fleet opened fire. Weapons that could shatter moons and boil atmospheres lashed out across space. Energy beams that could cut through planetary shields struck at the human ships. Missiles that could crack continents exploded in brilliant flashes of destruction. Every shot passed through empty space. The human ships were not dodging. They were phasing, existing in states where the Council's weapons simply could not touch them. It was not magic. It was quantum mechanics pushed to its ultimate limit, technology the Council had never imagined possible. "Return fire," Nathan ordered. The Guardian ships struck back, but not with conventional weapons. They used gravity itself as a weapon, creating localized warps in spacetime that crushed Council vessels like paper. They used dimensional rifts that transported enemy ships into the hearts of stars. They used quantum entanglement to make Council targeting systems attack their own allies. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the Council fleet in disarray. 3,000 ships destroyed or disabled, the rest retreating in confusion and fear. But Vexthor's battle station remained intact, its shields holding against everything humanity could throw at it. "Phase assault teams," Nathan said. "We are going in." 10 Guardian ships shifted fully into dimensional phase and simply appeared inside Vexthor's battle station. They bypassed shields, bypassed armor, bypassed every defense the Council had built over millions of years. Nathan led the boarding team personally, phasing through bulkheads and corridors until they reached the command center. Prelate Vexthor floated in his prismatic shell, surrounded by shocked Council guards. Nathan stood before him, his phase generator keeping him partially shifted so that weapons could not harm him. "You cannot win this way," Vexthor said. "Even if you destroy me, even if you destroy every Council fleet, the harvesters will come. And when they do, you will face them alone." "We know," Nathan said calmly, "but we will not face them as victims. We will face them as warriors. We will face them with every advantage we can create, every weapon we can build, every ally we can gather." He activated his computer and connected it directly to the battle station systems. Through quantum entanglement, he flooded the Council's networks with everything humanity had learned. The truth about the ancients, the knowledge from the architect, the technology they had developed. Most importantly, a proposal. Vexthor received the data flood and processed it in seconds. His shell turned from dark red to pale blue, a color that indicated deep thought. You offer to share this knowledge freely, to any species that wishes to advance, to any civilization that chooses freedom over safety. Yes, Nathan confirmed. We will not force anyone, but we will not hide what we know. Any species that wants to prepare for the harvesters is welcome to join us. Any species that wants to stay under council protection can do so. The choice is theirs. This will destroy the council, Vexthor said quietly. Species will leave. They will seek your knowledge. Our unity will shatter. Your unity was built on lies and fear, Nathan replied. Real unity comes from choice, from shared purpose, from facing challenges together instead of hiding from them separately. Vexthor was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I cannot stop you. Your technology is beyond our ability to counter. But know this, when the harvesters come, when they see what you have built, they will not negotiate. They will not hesitate. They will harvest everything, and the council will not sacrifice itself to save you. We would not ask you to, Nathan said, but the offer stands. When the harvesters arrive, any species that wants to stand with us will be welcome. We will face them together or die together, but we will face them free. Nathan and his team phased back to their ships. The council fleet withdrew, retreating toward the Milky Way in defeat. On the Endeavor's bridge, Karen watched them go. What happens now? Peter asked. Now we wait, Karen said. We have shown the galaxy that the council can be defied. We have shown them there is another way. Species will come. They will seek our knowledge. And when the harvesters finally arrive, we will be ready. How long? Peter wondered. Karen looked at the sensor displays showing deep space anomalies at the edge of detected range. Not as long as the council thinks. The harvesters are already coming, and this time, they will find something they have never encountered before. They will find humanity, and humanity does not surrender. The council gave the order too late. Humanity had already moved beyond their reach part. 200 years after the Exodus began, the Andromeda Galaxy had been transformed. What started as 15 desperate ships carrying refugees from Council authority had become a thriving civilization spanning hundreds of star systems. Humanity had built cities on planets that had never known intelligent life. They had terraformed dead worlds into gardens. They had turned asteroids into shipyards and moons into universities. Nathan Cross, now in his final years, walked slowly through the memorial garden on New Earth. This was the first planet humanity had successfully terraformed in Andromeda, a world chosen specifically because it reminded the original colonists of home. Trees from Earth grew beside alien plants discovered during the long journey. Water flowed in streams that had been engineered to follow natural patterns. Children played among the trees, their laughter echoing through the garden. Some were human. Others belonged to species that had left the Council to join humanity's great experiment. Jovians with their crystalline bodies, the Flux who could change their physical form at will, the Shardborn who thought in geometric patterns, 24 species who had chosen freedom over safety. Nathan sat on a bench carved from stone and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the original 15 Exodus ships floated in orbit. They had been converted into museums, monuments to the courage of those first colonists who had dared to defy the Council. Millions of visitors came each year to walk their corridors and remember. A young woman approached and sat beside him. Her name was Captain Amy Foster, and she commanded humanity's Guardian, the most advanced defensive platform ever built. She was 35 years old, born on New Earth, and had never seen the Milky Way except through telescopes. Commander Cross, Amy said respectfully, I wanted to thank you for agreeing to speak at the Academy tomorrow. The cadets are excited to hear from someone who was on the original journey. Nathan smiled. I am old, Captain. My memory is not what it used to be, but I will do my best to tell them what it was like. The deep space stations detected new gravitational anomalies this morning, Amy said, her tone becoming serious. The harvesters are accelerating. Our best calculations suggest they will reach the edge of Andromeda in 50 years instead of the 1,000 the Council predicted. Nathan nodded slowly. I know, I received the same report. The harvesters always come early when they detect advanced civilizations. We have been building, advancing, preparing. We have attracted their attention. Are we ready? Amy asked. No one is ever truly ready, Nathan admitted. But we are more ready than any civilization has ever been. We have knowledge the ancients left behind. We have technology the Council never imagined. Most importantly, we have unity. 30 species working together, sharing knowledge, preparing as one. The Council sent another message, Amy said. Prelate Vexthor wants to meet with our leadership. He says the harvesters have been detected in Council space as well. He is asking for our help. Nathan was quiet for a moment, watching the children play. Send a message back. Tell Vexthor that any species who wishes to join the Frontier Coalition is welcome. Tell him we do not forget where we came from. Earth still orbits Sol. Humanity remembers its cradle world. 3 days later, the impossible happened. The Galactic Council voted to dissolve its enforcement protocols. For the first time in millions of years, species across the galaxy were given a choice. They could maintain the old ways, hiding behind stagnation and hoping the harvesters would pass them by. Or they could advance, prepare, and join the fight. Thousands of civilizations chose to advance. The Great Exodus began, a reversal of what had happened to humanity 2 centuries before. But this time it was not one species fleeing oppression. It was hundreds of species choosing hope over fear, choosing growth over stagnation, choosing to face their destiny instead of hiding from it. Ships poured into Andromeda by the millions. Some came from the Milky Way. Others came from galaxies even more distant, places where the Council's influence had barely reached. They came seeking knowledge. They came seeking alliance. They came seeking humanity's example of defiance and survival. The Frontier Coalition grew from 30 species to 300 in just 5 years. Shipyards worked around the clock building defensive platforms. Research facilities shared discoveries instantaneously across quantum networks. Training centers taught new tactics for fighting enemies that existed across multiple dimensions. Nathan watched it all from his home on New Earth. He was dying slowly, his body finally giving out after more than 2 centuries of life sustained by advanced medical technology. But he was content. He had lived to see humanity achieve something remarkable. They had not just survived beyond Council reach. They had thrived. They had become a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. On his last day, surrounded by family both human and alien, Nathan spoke his final words. They were recorded and broadcast across 3 galaxies, heard by trillions of beings preparing for the greatest battle in the history of the universe. My grandmother Helen stood before the Council 2 centuries ago and accepted their judgment, Nathan said, his voice weak but clear. She knew something they did not. You cannot cage the human spirit. You cannot stop progress. We came to Andromeda not to hide from the Council, but to grow beyond their limitations. We came to prove that advancement without restriction, guided by wisdom and strengthened by unity, is not the path to destruction. It is the path to salvation. He paused, gathering his strength for the final words. The harvesters are coming. They have come before and they will come again. But this time they will find something they have never encountered. They will find civilizations that refuse to be harvested. They will find beings who have prepared for this moment. They will find humanity, and all those who have chosen to stand with us. And we will show them that consciousness, intelligence, and determination can overcome any obstacle. We will show them that freedom is worth fighting for. We will show them that we are more than prey. We are survivors. We are warriors. We are hope. Nathan died peacefully, his last breath a whisper of contentment. His funeral was attended by representatives from every species in the Frontier Coalition. They mourned together, united in grief and purpose. On the bridge of humanity's guardian, Captain Amy Foster stood before the main view screen and watched the combined fleets of the Frontier Coalition assembling. Millions of ships from hundreds of species, all preparing for the battle that would determine the fate of conscious life in the universe. Even Prelate Vexthor had joined them, his battle station now part of the defensive line. The Council had finally accepted what humanity had known from the beginning. Survival through stagnation was not survival at all. It was just slow death. All ships report ready, Amy's first officer announced. Defense platforms are online. Quantum networks are synchronized. Dimensional shields are calibrated. We are as prepared as we can be. Amy opened a channel that broadcast to every ship, every station, every world in the Frontier Coalition. Her voice was calm and confident, carrying the strength of someone who had been born free and would die free. This is Captain Foster to all Coalition forces. 200 years ago, the Council gave the order for humanity to submit. They gave that order too late. By the time they decided we were a threat, we had already become something they never imagined. We became the proof that freedom is stronger than control. We became the hope that advancement is not destruction. We became the example that unity through choice is more powerful than unity through force. She paused, looking at the tactical displays showing the approaching harvester fleet. They were massive, beyond comprehension, existing partially in dimensions that normal sensors could barely detect. But they were not invincible. Nothing was invincible. Today we face the greatest threat conscious life has ever known. Today we fight not just for ourselves but for every species that refuse to give up hope. Today we prove that evolution cannot be stopped, that growth cannot be prevented, that the universe belongs to those brave enough to claim it. The Council gave their order too late. The harvesters have come too late. We are ready, we are united, and we will not fall. The combined fleet moved forward, a wall of defiance against the darkness. Behind them, on New Earth, a new monument was unveiled in the memorial garden. It bore the names of every person who had taken the first Exodus journey 200 years ago. Helen Carter, Lisa Morgan, Peter Grant, Derek Walsh, Karen Price, and thousands more who had dared to dream of freedom. Beneath the names, carved in stone that would last for millennia, was a simple inscription. Words that had become the motto of the Frontier Coalition. Words that captured everything humanity had achieved and everything they represented. They told us to stop. We chose to soar. For humanity. For freedom. For the future. As the first salvos of the greatest battle in galactic history began, those words echoed across the quantum networks connecting millions of worlds. They were spoken in hundreds of languages by dozens of species. They were a promise and a declaration. They were a reminder of what had been achieved and what still needed to be protected. The Council had given their order too late.